Well, hello and welcome to our reading of Homer, and I'm just going to read slowly through the Odyssey, Book 7. This is really aimed at those who have read a little bit of Homer, who have already learnt their Attic Greek declensions and conjugations, etc., and just to slowly read through Book 7. So hos homen enth erato polutlas dios Odysseus, kuren de proteastu feren menos hemionoin. So the subject here is, of course, polutlas dios Odysseus. Polutlas, polu you recognize the much, and the tala root, tlao is I, endure. So much enduring, glorious Odysseus. And get hose with the accent, so it's thus did he, the much enduring glorious Odysseus, there in that place. Enther erato is from araamai. If you're looking this verb up, araamai, which means to pray, and it picks up the eukomenos, which was back in book 6, line 328. So thus there did much enduring glorious Odysseus pray, and we get a nice men, and it's balanced here with a de. And the subject of this is the menos hemionoin. This word here is a dual genitive. So a dual genitive from hemi onos. Hemi half, with like semi coming through Latin, and onos is an ass or donkey, so half a donkey is generally regarded as a mule. And we're getting here this Homeric expression, the strength of two mules. And it's a Homeric expression normally used with people rather than animals, but it's simply another way of saying the two mules. But they often say the strength of Odysseus or the strength of Agamemnon and so on, simply meaning the person themselves. So you often don't translate the menos, but it's literally the strength of two mules. Feren, this is the imperfect from pharaoh without the augment, which is typical in Homer. You often don't get the augment in past tenses. So they were carrying the kurein, the girl. This is referring to Nausicaa. Proti for pros, another form of pros, often for the sake of meter here, and astu, the city. And we do, oddly enough, get two vowels together here, but I'll leave you to look at the commentaries on explaining these things. So the strength of the two mules was carrying the girl to the city. He de hoti dei hu patros agakluta domath hikane stesen ar en prothroi si casignetoi de min amphis histant athenetois en alinkioi hoi rehup apenes hemi onus eluam estheta te esperon eso. And but she, this is Nausicaa, when hikane from hikano, which is an alternate form from hikneamai, you get the same root. It's from the verb is hikano. Here you also get hiko. So, but she, when she came to the very famous houses of her father. And then the day when she in fact came to the very famous houses of her father, you get the Klutos root here of famous. Aga is often put at the beginning to say very famous. We get the same thing in the name Agamemnon, for example. So when she came to the very famous houses of her father, now this is a personal adjective here. So it has to take it's because it's an adjective, it has to take its gender and case from the noun it's going with, which is masculine. but because she is the subject, it's her father. Stesan, so when she arrived there, Stesan, she caused to stand, and we're going to understand the Haemionus, the mules. So she halted, we might say, she halted the mules. Ar is a little particle, often not translated, but can be translated as accordingly or appropriately. It's connected with ararisko, apparently, meaning to fit together, so fittingly, as you might expect. So perhaps accordingly is good translation for that here. So she's halted them, understood as you might expect, or accordingly, in the forecourts, in the place in front of the door. So she did that, but her cassignatoi, her brothers, Histant, stood around her, min amphis, min for Autane, likened to immortals, so like to immortals. But they, this is the brothers, Eluon, were releasing the Haemionus, these are the mules, from underneath, and Hepane is really, I think, the seat of the chariot, but it's part for whole, so from underneath the chariot, and Espheron, again no augment, and they were carrying inside the estheta, this is the clothes. It's connected with henumi, to put on. So they do all this, so they unhitch the mules from the chariot, and they carry the clothes, the estheta, inside. You remember that in the previous book, Nausicaa went to do the washing, and it was there that she met up with Odysseus. And she's told him to wait behind while she goes back to the city. Aute de es thalamon heon aie, and she went into her bedroom, thalamos. The heon again is another one of these personal adjectives, so into her bedroom. So she made her way into her bedroom. Dae de hoipur graus aperae thalamepolos eurimedusa ten poti aperethen neos agagon amphialisai. Now the subject here is this old woman. This is in Attic that would be an alpha. Graus, an old woman. It's graeus in the Ionic dialect. So the old woman, and she's from Aperea. She's an Aperian. And the name itself simply means boundless, a land without any boundaries. But we'll call it Aperea. So the old woman from Aperea, Eurimedusa is her name, literally one who thinks broadly. It's not quite how broad-minded, but more the sense of she's paying attention to everything, make sure everything is correct, and she's the Thalame Polos. She's in charge of the thalamos, the bedroom, so she's like a chambermaid. So she, Dae, this is again past tense from Dia, to set, to burn, so perhaps here to light. So she lit, or she had lit, a fire, hoi for her, for Aute. And now we get typical of what happens in Homer. You now get a little digression explaining more about this person, which continues all the way down to the end here, and then it's rounded back up by repeating in slightly different form what she had done back up here. It's a nice little ring composition. So she who, poti once, whom, we get nees for the word for the ships. It's normally nous. This is just an alternate form here. The ships which were amphielisi, the rounded ships. So whom once the well-rounded ships brought from Ago, from Apare. So the name of the place is Apare. She's an Aparian, so she's from Apare, and we get this old ending here meaning from. So these ships brought her from Apare, the boundless land, and now we get the verb ex elon here, which is from ex hyreo. And the aorist is normally halon, but that's augmented. The stem is hel, so we get an unaugmented aorist here. So it's gone back to helon, again probably for the sake of meter, because you want a short vowel here. So we're not told who that they were, but ex hyreo is to choose, to take out. So they, whoever they are, chose autein her as a geras, as a prize for Alkinois. This is the king, as we're about to be told. Hunica for haughty, because Anese, again no augment, he was ruling, and it takes a dative, all the Phaiakians. And we get a run over from one line to the next here. And the demos, well, in later Greek, demos is the people, but in Homer it's generally more the land, so it's a reference to the country really. The land listened to him, no augment, from akuo. Hos, notice the accent here with the genitive, so like a god. So the land paid heed to him like a god. Hey, trefe Nausicaan leukolenon en megaroisi, e hoi por anakae kai sedor pon ekosme. And she, now the verb here is from trefo, she reared, white-armed, this is from Lukos and Olenos, white-armed Nausicaa in megaroisin, in the halls. From Megaron, and then we get the closing off of this cycle here, and she was the one who understood. Anakae lit up a fire, from Anakaio, she lit up the fire, hoi for her, that is for Nausicaa. Again we get this hoi here for aute, and Cosme from Cosmio, and was preparing dorpon supper, aso inside. So she was getting the supper ready inside. So she lit a fire and was preparing it all. It's a very sweet little beginning to Book 7. Kaitoti Odysseus orto polindi imen, amphidathene, polen aera cue phila phroneusi Odyssey. Metis Phaiakon megathumon antipolesas kertomeoi epeesin kai ex ereoith hotis aa. And at that time Odysseus, orto is from ornumi, it's sort of an apocryphated aorist form here, a shortened aorist form. So at that from ornumi, to set forth. So at that time Odysseus set forth. Imen is an infinitive from Amy Ibo. The root of Amy, with the accent on the first syllable with circumflex, the root of that is I, and men is a Homeric infinitive ending. So they've just taken the root I from Amy Ibo and added in an infinitive. And then we get polinde. The de again is an ending meaning to. You get Athenasdi, to Athens. So you get polindi, to the city. So then Odysseus roused or set forth to go to the city, but Athena, now the main verb here is he'e, from he'o to pour, so she was, and it's imperfect without augment, she was pouring pollen aera, much mist, amphi around. So the amphi goes with the q here. This is, well, in later Greek you'd call it temesis, but by this stage the preposition and the verb were not connected. This is often referred to as a preverb in Homeric language. So Athena poured much mist around him, Phroneusa, thinking dear things for Odysseus. So being well disposed, being kindly to Odysseus. May, lest, so she did that, lest any of the megathumone Phaiakian. Megathumone, perhaps great-hearted, great-spirited, perhaps high-spirited might be good here, because I think the sense is that they're slightly arrogant. So lest any of the high-spirited Phaiakians, this is a participle here from antibolio, to meet up with. So lest any of the high-spirited Phaiakians, having met up with him, now we get here an optative from kertomeo, they might mock him, ap-esin, from dative plural from epos, with words, kai ex reoith hotis ei. Now this again is an optative here, and this would have been a tor, and it gets aspirated before the hot. Hotis for hostis. This is just another shortened form of hostis. They've shortened it to make this a short vowel here, which was needed for the meter. So lest any of them might mock him with words, and might ask him, hotis, aa, this is optative from the verb to be, whoever he might be. So might ask him who he was. Al hoti dei ar Emily, polin ducesthai eranein, entha hoi antibolesi thea glaucopis Athenae, parthenike aequia ni e nidi calpin ecuse, ste de prostautu, hodi aneratodios Odysseus. But when, indeed, Emile, he was about. Now, ducesthai is a future infinitive after mellow. It means to descend, so to go down to. So when he was about to descend into or go down into the arena, the lovely Polin, the lovely city, and the day is something like in fact, and we get day plus ara. So when then accordingly he was about to go down into that lovely city, there at that place, Athena, the grey-eyed goddess, from we get the glauk root of grey and the ops root of face, of eyes. So the grey-eyed goddess Athena met with him, hoi here for auto this time. Hoi can be masculine or feminine. It's a very useful little word. So she met with him. Now she was aquia. This is a participle. It's actually in form it's a perfect participle, feminine. There is a verb aiko, to resemble. So we often, it's a perfect participle, having resembled. So we just say like to. So like to, now this is nianidi, from nianis, and then it's an eta in this dialect. So like to a young Parthenica, young maiden. This can be taken as, variously taken as an adjective, or it could be a substantive in apposition to this. So like to a young maiden, a girl, or just like to a young maiden is probably the easiest way of translating it. And then dative here agreeing with this, so she like to a young maiden, ekuse, participle, carrying or having a kalpin. A kalpis is a pitcher, a jug. And stay, she stood pros autu, in front of him, and glorious Odysseus, anerita, well, he began to ask her a question. So it's simply from the just asking. So began to ask her, or perhaps struck up a conversation might be quite nice there. Now that's the first 21 lines of this book, and we'll continue this in the next reading.